Who's ready for fresh ideas, new connections, innovation, curiosity, while maintaining ease in your nervous system? We'll be talking about this and more on this week's episode of Our Waking Dream. I'm your host, Coco Swanson. I'm so glad you're here. Each week on the show, I go over one basic astrology theme. I weave it into our lives through practical tools based in energy healing, somatics, awareness and wisdom traditions, and communication. My modalities reach the whole lifestyle, from our office place to romance, to how we raise our kids, to how we dress ourselves in the morning. That's my specialty. Over on my site, I have more free offerings. That's part of my goal this year, is to offer as much meaningful material as I can to saturate you with, to help people in the most substantial way I can through the Solutions Lab. That's an every other weekly, it's a problem solving. Bring me your problems live every other Sunday. And it's free. And we solve them together, knowing that energy creates form. If we shift energy, we can change thought forms. So how we shift energy is that's my expertise. So come on over to the Solutions Lab, links below. And I have a leadership studio where I'm exploring the different pillars and sub-pillars that help us create the most traction and change in our lives in the way that we desire. And that's a community membership program where I'm bringing new meditations and new journal exercises and new different somatic exercises every other week with live workshops, studios that we have together. And so more information below on both of those. Let's jump into this week's lesson, which is all about Gemini. I like to teach astrology in a way where we talk about the symbols of the planets and the symbols of the zodiac. Sometimes I'll dive into all the specific symbols of each planet. Right now, we're just going to point to the emphasis we have in the sign. Because we have so many cosmic bodies, meaning the sun is about to move into Gemini. We have the moon in Gemini today. So that's 2 alone. And then we have lots of planets. There's Mercury that's moving into Gemini today. We have Venus at the final degrees of Gemini. And we have Uranus, the grand awakener. It disrupts status quo and aligns us over 7 years. It's a 7-year transit with whatever signs that it's visiting. So it's visiting Gemini. And it will, over 7 years, tune all Gemini aspects up. And so as opposed to diving into each of those, the sun that's going to move into Gemini in the next few days, the moon that's in there now, Mercury that's moving there today, Venus that's in its final degrees, and Uranus, we just know a lot of emphasis is on Gemini right now. So it's exceptionally advantageous to look at all things Gemini, both its shadow, which is the areas in which we could keep an eye out for that would cause us to trip and become more wounded. And we have the shadow, and the strengths of the sign. So let's dive into Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. It's a mutable air sign. And it focuses on the sharing of ideas. I like to think of Gemini as like little bees buzzing around and collecting information and sharing information. And there's a lot of movement, curiosity. It's mental stimulation. It's being the messenger. It's conveying information here. It's socializing. It's unpredictable. It has to do with intellectual flexibility, storytelling. It's variety, stimulation. It's quite exciting in its shadow expressions. It's overstimulation. It's addicted to being in our heads. It can go into doom scrolling. You can go into gossip. It can be constantly seeking novelty and not knowing when to commit, when to follow through. Can you see how those are related? Because on one aspect, we have the social butterfly gathering and sharing information, innovating, being curious and playful and following novelty. But if we do that too much, we can lose depth. We can have emotional avoidance because we're in our brains. We don't know when to slow down. We don't know when to commit. So whenever we have a lot of emphasis in a sign like we do now in Gemini season, so the sun will be in Gemini for a full month. And when it's in Gemini, while we have Mercury will be in Gemini that month, and we have Uranus that whole month. So the whole month of the sun in Gemini, there is more emphasis than just the sun. Today we have extra emphasis because we have Venus still in Gemini and the moon is in Gemini too. But even when we just have those three, the sun, Mercury, and Uranus in Gemini, that's a lot of emphasis. Merits paying attention to all things Gemini. First and foremost, on our waking dream, I dive into inquiry questions for you to take the pulse with how you're doing in the theme. Are you ready for fresh ideas, new connections, novelty and play and movement in your life? And how scattered are you feeling? How overstimulated? How overwhelmed by information do you feel? Do you feel distrustful of where we're taking AI? These are Gemini questions. Essentially, we're looking at how to foster innovation, creativity, connection, collaboration without burnout, overwhelm, and exhaustion. I bring these inquiry questions to my journal. I'll say, how am I? How do I stay creative and open without burning out? So I invite you to do that. With these inquiry questions, they can shift directly to your journal. And so you take them and own them for yourself. That becomes an exercise. Another question: how do we navigate constant information? Think of how much information you receive with one simple scroll on your phone, or when you open your email thread, or when you jump on the phone with a buddy, or when you let yourself think. Like, how much information is going on in our brains? And how does it feel to your body? Are you being nourished by the information that you're receiving? This is about how we sustain in a season that's going to bring about new ideas, curiosities, co-creation, the fluttering around, socialization that we all need. But how do we sustain that in a time period that we have so much information? How do you sustain that? What actually helps your nervous system to feel grounded and inspired and connected? What are signs that your nervous system feels grounded, connected, and at ease? For me, I can tell that my nervous system feels good because I feel less shaky. I feel more ease. I feel more at peace. I can listen to somebody else's perspective. I know if I don't have access to that, that I won't have access to the integration of new ideas. So essentially, keeping my thumb on the pulse of how I'm doing with information overload, overwhelm, or if it's a perfect amount of information and my body is assimilating it with grace and ease. This happens on my own, and it also happens when I'm in relationship, work relation, romance relationship, whatever kind of relationship I'm in. This is always in the back of my mind. Also, oh yeah, I love this. What kind of conversations, of people, of play, of ideas cause you to feel more human and less fragmented? What does a fragmented nervous system feel like? For me, it's when I'm jumping all over the place in my brain or my emotions, but I'm not actually feeling ease in my body. How is that for you? These are the inquiry questions that I'd bring to this week and really the whole month of Gemini. And we've got this 7-year transit with Uranus and Gemini. So this is important content to keep in mind and keep in the front of your awareness for the next 7 years. That's a long amount of time, right? Practice number 2. What feels electrically alive for you right now? I'd bring that question into a micro break and you follow it. Follow your whimsy. Follow your play. What is genuinely sparking your interest and curiosity these days? Take a 3 to 10 minute break. No tech. Take the tech away and follow your creativity, your ideas, your curiosity, your whimsy. What inspires you? And you know what inspires you because it makes you feel good. For example, you take a 3-minute break. You ask the question, what's inspiring me authentically? What makes me more curious? Like, what am I curious about? What am I excited about learning? And then you might sit and journal about it, or you might talk about it. I'll talk to my friends, and I also talk to trees. I talk to my animals. I talk to spirit itself. And I let myself go down rabbit holes on purpose. So during this week, the micro break, what makes you feel alive right now? What strikes your curiosity, innovation? What interests you? Take a 3 to 10 minute break and purposefully go down rabbit holes, not with technology, with your imagination, with your play. What does it feel like to play? What does it feel like to be whimsical? What does it feel like to go down rabbit holes of ideas with friends or colleagues? What would this be like in the workplace? You take a 10-minute rabbit hole dive into ideas with your colleagues at work. It's a 3 to 10-minute micro break, primarily to follow your curiosity, not to be productive in the traditional sense of productivity. It's to remember what makes you feel alive. Because I think we have started to confuse stimulation with a genuine aliveness. Stimulation might end up causing us to feel more fragmented and all over the place. Aliveness will feel sound in our nervous system. So 3 to 10 minute micro break to follow your whimsy and curiosity without tech. Practice number 3 is a pause before input. Am I resourced enough for more input right now? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself and ask your buddy that. Ask your sweetheart. Ask your colleague. Ask your child. Are you resourced? Do you feel good enough to have more information from me before another scroll, another conversation, another podcast? Do you need more grounding, more breath, more touch, more heart connection? I can tell that I cannot have more input when my nervous system feels frazzled, which, to be honest, happens a lot. Will more information right now cause you more or less ease in your body? If the answer is less, why not take a pause on input and instead restore your biology through breath, through touch, through getting outside? If you're in a romantic relationship, it could be holding hands and breathing rather than talking. If you're at work, it could be a pause in the conversation to get outside and play, or to have a dance break, to have something that brings you back into your senses. Because as soon as we drop out of analysis into our heart and into our bodies, our brain has more access to reconfigure the thoughts in a cohesive way. So I suggest a pause before more information. That information can come through scrolling, through conversation, and you pause until your body is resourced. That could be a micro break, and it might need to be a full day's break in conversation, but that the goal, the spoken goal between you and whoever you're in relationship with, is to reestablish coherence and the feel goods in your body and in your heart in order to re-enter into conversation and receive more input in a more wise and comprehensive and cohesive way. That's practice number 3. In review, Gemini season is bringing about flurry, excitement, information, co-creation, connection. It might be more overstimulating than your nervous system wants, less grounding. So keep your eye on that. How are you feeling in relation to overstimulation and what causes you to feel alive? The micro reset, number 1, is what genuinely sparks my interest, and follow that without tech as a micro break. Practice number 2 that I suggest is the pause before input. Am I ready for information? What will more input do to my nervous system? Do I just need, and do we just need, to connect in through our bodies, through our breath, through the spaciousness of being a mammal before we get more input? That's it for today on Our Waking Dream. As always, I am so thankful you're here. This is primarily organically growing right now, so please like and share and comment. That helps this have wings to fly to whoever it needs to be. Until next week, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being a part of our community here at Our Waking Dream. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Fill my cup and let it overflow. Let it overflow with love.